This is Continuum Drag, a podcast where we watch sci-fi, fantasy, and everything in between. This week, Night Visions, episode 13.
Dr. Daniel Critchley has just met a unique patient. Either this man is insane, or the world is about to come to an end.
Welcome to Continuum Drag, the podcast you have to listen to, or the world will end. I'm Luke, here with my co-host Jordan. What's real, Jordan?
Okay, I have a confession to make. We're watching the last two episodes of this show, but I forgot that when we take the escape pod, we only watch the last episode. So I watched the last two episodes. So I have something that's what's real, but I can't remember if it's from episode 12 or it's from episode 13, which is the one with the deaf girl.
That's a lot.
That's 13. That's 13.
Oh, okay. Well, there was a line where she was like, he kept calling her deaf girl, and he's like, "You're deaf, and I'm not." And anyways, that was it. And I was, I really sold it. Yeah.
Worth it.
Come on, deaf girl.
Well, we're joined by the host of the Yum Yum podcast. Welcome back, Ryan.
Hello, thank you for having me back. I'm so thrilled to be here. I was so thrilled that your podcast has returned from hibernation and that you were covering a show that I'm aware of. I was like, oh, great, I can't wait to hear about Night Visions. And then I talked to you a bit about it, and I was like, oh, you didn't love Night Visions? I love Night Visions. How dare you? How dare you? I want to come on and talk about Night Visions.
We brought on finally a Night Visions apologist to come here and talk. Now, last time you were here, Ryan, I think it was for Darkman, right? The Darkman pilot.
Yes.
That's I have fond memories of that pilot for some reason.
You've gone through a lot since then. You've had some sliders since then, so everything's changed.
It's true. Now, tell me, what is your experience with Night Vision? Did you watch this when it originally aired?
In part, I guess. I was a bit young at the time when this show originally came out, but my parents recorded it, and so we would watch it on the videotapes, that they recorded off the TV, and we were very much into these type of shows, whether they're your horror anthology or your sci-fi or your just direct horror type shows. I love things like The X-Files, of course. I love things like American Gothic starring Gary Cole. Like, these are the type of shows that my parents enjoyed, as well as traditional sci-fi things like Babylon 5 and Star Trek. So we're also big fans of the music of Henry Rollins. I enjoy Rollins' band more so than Black Flag. Like, in our car, we had the album Nice always playing, so that's like it's still in my constant rotation today. So there's also the allure of seeing Henry Rollins be the Twilight Zone host. I think that's very amusing. But as a kid, I would watch the episodes, and since it's an anthology show, it doesn't really matter what order you watch them in. I remember there's one in particular we watched all of the time, which is it's one of the episodes a bit before this, obviously, but it is one where the first story is about, like, the rapture has happened, basically, and it's Thora Birch is one of the few survivors, and she's just, like, wandering around.
Thora Birch.
Yeah, and the second one I really liked, which was a guy enters this small town where there's no music, and they kill people who play music because they're worried that the devil will come. And it's like a
Footloose.
really good episode. Like, it's really brutal and, like, has that kind of Stephen King energy, Children of the Corn type energy, but yeah, there's just certain stories within this, and I think, depending if you guys are like horror anthology or just anthology show watchers yourselves, with any of these shows, there's always like that story or those characters or that scenario that kind of lingers with you, even if you haven't like rewatched the show recently. There's always just, oh, I caught that late one night on TV, and I just remember that like little scenario, and that's kind of me with this show, and I just don't hear people really talk about it, but I remember it. I'm like, oh, I remember there's like a bunch of great character actor people that just showed up in this show, but at the same time, that's kind of the nature of horror / just anthology shows, is just, let's get these fun character actor people, or nowadays A-listers, to be in a spooky scenario, and I just kind of enjoy it for that kick as well.
Do you think part of it, though, also is maybe a type of show hitting you at a very specific age where, you're very open to those sorts of things, or it's new or novel or whatever it may be? Do you think that has something to do with it?
Of course. And I think with this breed of show, more than any other, there is something special about stumbling across this on TV itself. Nowadays, like, I can stream these shows. I can just download episodes of Inside Number 9, which is one of the more modern examples of like a horror anthology show I love. But I don't know, there's just something a little less special about that to me, even though I love stuff like this. Something about being like, you know, in your youth and you're just, you know, flipping from channel to channel to channel and you catch something halfway through and you're like, wait a moment, Malcolm McDowell's in this? Wait, Henry Rollins the host of this? There is something about this type of show where that kind of spontaneity and just that blindsiding nature is a part of the allure. And so, yeah, my youth, but also just the style of show this is and the when it came out, I think also just makes it a bit special too.
Here's my question. Do those VHS tapes still exist?
Probably, yeah. Yeah, my parents keep pretty much most of those things. Yeah.
You know how much I would love to have watched this show, but with Australian commercials in between?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it would have been so good.
Oh, yeah. It would have been fantastic. I'm sure there will be some gems in there.
You got to upload all those tapes directly to the Internet Archive and just let them sit there.
Do my due diligence, yeah. But no, I grew up with this show, but I think, you know, for a lot of people, there's those shows that, you know, when you were younger, those spooky type of shows. And I mean, the two creators of Night Visions worked on things like Animorphs and, you know, things like that, like these kind of kids fantasy spooky shows. So they lean into that a little bit with this show, which is much more obviously aimed at adults. But I think there is like a gateway style to this show where it's like, if you're like a 12-year-old and you're watching this, then yeah, this would be pretty entertaining and spooky and want to get you into more things like this.
Yeah, I would agree with that, actually. I do think it's like, if you were like 12, 13, these are the kind of things that be like, oh, I'm interested in horror, but I want to see something a little more adult, but not too adult. All right, before we get started, I have a game for us in honor of this being the final episode of Night Vision. Since we took the escape pod, we missed 6 episodes of Night Visions, which is, for this show, 12 different stories, potential stories we could have watched.
Yeah, 12 apologies you owe me for things you missed on.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give the name of one of the stories, and Jordan's going to try to guess what that story was about. And Ryan, we're going to see if you can remember what that story was about, since you might actually know.
I might actually know, yeah. You got to go off of, like, I think I've rewatched this show as, like, from beyond those tapes, like, once or twice. But it's not going to be, I remember certain ones, but let's see where you go.
Let's see how it goes. So, Jordan, we'll start with you. Mm-hmm. What do you think the story within the episode, the story was called Neighborhood Watch?
Neighborhood Watch is, it's a small little suburb. You know, it's sort of picturesque. Everyone seems to be getting along. It's a perfect place to raise your kids. And then one person thinks they see aliens, and no one believes them. But they have to keep trying to convince someone that there's aliens, and no one will believe them. At the very end, you find out that everyone in the town is an alien, and it makes no sense.
Ryan, what do you remember? What Neighborhood Watch was about?
Is it? There's one that reminds me of a Desperate Housewives plot, actually, where like a new person moves into the neighborhood, and I can't remember if they're like afraid, like he's like a Freddy Krueger type villain where it's like, oh, is he someone that murders children? And it's like a paranoia type thing. I can't remember if it's exactly like that, but I think there's one like that. Is it that?
All right. Ding, ding, ding. I believe that's the one, because here's the synopsis for Neighborhood Watch. Worried parents form a neighborhood watch to scare away a recently released pedophile.
Oh, even worse.
But they don't know what he looks like. My favorite part about this is like, they don't know what he looks like, but they're trying to scare him away. It sounds like a Frasier-style comedy of errors.
As it should.
Which one of us is the pedophile?
Yeah, that's what Frasier was like. Yeah. That's exactly what Frasier was like. Yeah. Oh, boy.
All right, let's move on to the next one. Jordan, what do you think the story Hate Puppet was about?
I mean, one can only assume it's about a ventriloquist who is always striving to make the perfect puppet. And one night he's working late, maybe has a couple too many drinks, makes a puppet, and of course it ends up being evil, tries to kill him.
Ryan, do you remember what Hate Puppet was about?
I mean, that sounds pretty on point, doesn't it? Is this going to be like a Goosebumps kind of play where that series or those books had like an evil puppet in it? Is it like playing on that type of thing? I think so. I can't remember if there's actually an actual puppet or if it's going to be one of those bullshit things where it's like, this person has magical powers and he turns people into puppets. I can't recall fully. No.
Well, I'm afraid neither of you are correct. I mean, I also, when I was imagining what Hate Puppet was about, I wrote down Elmo gets radicalized by the Proud Boys. But the actual synopsis was, for Hate Puppet, horror novelist is cursed to cause murderous rage towards him and everyone.
Oh, okay.
There's no puppet at all.
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. R.L. Stine goes mad. Yeah.
All right. Next one. My So-Called Life and Death.
I think this episode is sort of a sliding doors sort of thing, where we see this person's actions and obviously the repercussions of said actions, and it's actually done in a very interesting way. They have the two episodes placed side by side, with the two storylines, and you see what happens. And in one, they die. And in one, I don't know, things go fine. So it was a really groundbreaking episode for what's the show called? Night Visions.
How could you forget? How could you? Henry's going to tell you. Henry's going to tell you what the name of the show is.
That's right.
Ryan, do you remember? You remember My So-Called Life and Death?
There's one episode where like a businessman or like a salesman like inherits like a haunted mansion and has to deal with like the previous occupants of it. I don't know.
I mean, that's always a good story, but that is not the one. The synopsis for My So-Called Life and Death is: an angsty teen girl on vacation with her family in their summer home falls for their handsome, ghostly handyman.
There was a ghost. Good. Okay.
Yeah, there's another ghost, and I assume another pedophile. Finally, the last one we'll do. The episode will give you no hints. It is called Still Life.
Still Life is about a guy who is a painter, artist, I suppose, and he's doing a painting of just like he's usually just does like still life, sort of like, you know, the classic like he painting fruit and stuff. But then this one time he goes a little bit different and paints some sort of scene, a scenario, and it comes to life and kills much like the puppet that was not in that episode. Also, the people that come out of the painting are pedophiles.
I was going to say I actually like that story until the last bit. Not every episode has to be and it's pedophiles.
They take a really weird shift halfway through the season.
Well, Henry Rollins comes out and he's like, if you're a painter and you're working too late, you might be a pedophile. And you're like, what? Henry?
All right, Ryan, there's nothing to go on. Still Life gives you no information.
I want to say I have to think of like still life artistry. Like, you know, maybe they're like a still life model and they're like being pursued by someone who's attracted to them, because this show loves that. This show loves like, here's a person in a normal job and then a freak wants to haunt them or hunt them down. So yeah, that's my guess.
Wow. I actually think that might be correct, because the synopsis for Still Life is: happy housewife Kate is targeted by a mysterious, relentless thug for seemingly no reason. I mean, that's what you described just now. Some freak fixates on
But
someone.
who was the freak? Was it a beloved character actor? Like, was it shock of shock? Here comes Miguel Ferrer as a doctor. No, this show is so fun in terms of, like, it's a nice time capsule. Like, if you look at the back half of this show, you can, like, it comes out after 9/11, and you can feel how awkward that is. Like, beforehand, it's before 9/11. Then afterwards, you have this episode we're about to discuss that has all about, like, planes are falling from the sky. What are we going to do? What are we going to do?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We talked a little bit about that, but it feels like a show that happened pre-9/11, and it just really doesn't work once for some reason, that changes everything in the show. Is just like, I don't know if this show works anymore. All right, well, let's get into it. Here's the IMDb summary for episode 13. Patrons/voices. A psychiatrist evaluates a patient who claims the world will end unless he does endless little rituals every day. / At a murder trial, a deaf female court artist starts hearing the thoughts of the real killer, who's in the audience.
Oh.
So story one, of course, is Patrons, which, as you alluded to, Miguel Ferrer appears in, who Jordan will remember him best from Justice League of America.
Yeah, and he was in, what was the other thing he was in? He's been in a couple things we've seen.
I think you're right. I only remember him from Justice League of America.
I was going to say, have you ever had his dad in anything before?
No, who's his dad?
Oh, his dad was, his dad's like an acting legend, Jose Ferrer, who was in Lawrence of Arabia and David Lynch's Dune. He was the emperor in David Lynch's Dune. And he's the reason that Miguel Ferrer would work with David Lynch afterwards, because it's like, hey, have you met my cool son?
Man, it's Nepo babies all the way down.
It always is. Always is.
Well, Miguel Ferrer is a doctor at a hospital who has to do a psych evaluation for the police on a man who attacked a stranger in a park. And that man, why, it's Malcolm McDowell.
Yeah, no part is too small, Malcolm McDowell.
Hey, he works. Man works. He knows his bread and butter.
That's right.
He knows that he has to be in a little psychotic nut job of some sort.
Anyway, so the cop leaves this. This is crazy to me. The cop's just like, well, here's a guy I need a psych evaluation on. He just attacked someone in a park. I'm just going to leave you alone with this doctor, and I'll go get a coffee. I was just like, this can't be police procedure. But they settle in, and it quickly becomes clear that Malcolm McDowell has OCD due to like all his tics, or as the show calls them, rituals. Mm-hmm. That he's constantly like grabbing his tie and like tapping a desk or something. It's he does a good job with this. Like, I think
tugging his ear is a big one. Yeah,
absolutely. It's a kind of an awkward role to have to play, but he's good. Malcolm McDowell can deliver on this kind of thing.
He's very affable in this role as well. Where, I think, it's easy to say, oh, Malcolm McDowell is great at playing psychotic killers or intimidating men. But what I really like about this is they lean into like his old man, gentlemanly type persona. Like, he has like a really friendly face in this for a majority of the time, and he's softening his voice in this, so you kind of feel for him. But at the same time, it's Malcolm McDowell. You can't help but associate that there's going to be some dark element to it. So when we do get the kind of darker performance from the end, it kind of feels justified of casting this actor. But I actually did appreciate just this episode is, for the majority of it, a two-hander. It's just, let's put two great actors in a room and have them talk at one another for most of it. And if you don't cast the right actors, then it all falls apart. But Miguel Ferrer and Malcolm McDowell, they're pros.
Yeah, I mean, these two definitely carry it, because basically what's happening is Malcolm McDowell's like, I've got to leave. I can't stay in this room anymore. And the doctor's just like, hey, listen, I need to evaluate you. If everything's all right, I'll let you leave. And Malcolm McDowell's like, great. If I can convince you of the story of my life, will you let me go? And they're like, yes, absolutely. If you can convince me that you're not a problem, I will let you go. And man, oh man, it takes forever for them to reveal, like, they have so much conversation before they reveal like what his like thing is. I was just like, if you're Malcolm McDowell in this, and your whole thing, as it will be revealed, is like you're keeping the world together, he really hides that till the very end of like several flashbacks.
But he doesn't want to come across as crazy, because if he does, then they'll medicate him and then the world will fall apart. So it's like, it's the double-edged sword of like, he'll keep talking because he thinks it will rationalize everything, but he can't just immediately say, oh, I have God powers.
Well, it's not. I believe what they finally come to is that he explains that he has a contract with God, which I guess is. I could not explain the contract. It's just like, unless I do a million weird ticks every day. He's like, if I don't like do this, planes will fall out of the sky. If I do this, it keeps fish in the water. If I do this, it keeps your tie the color blue. I'm just like, some of these are less important than other things on this list of things you're doing. Just don't keep his tie blue.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all nonsensical, but he has to make sense of the patterns of it all. Like, that's a part of it. Like, and that's why they directly tie it in with OCD tendencies of like trying to justify and rationalize it, but then you escalate it with your supernatural bent that you have to have in these type of shows.
I mean, and that is, I think, the challenge of this is just like, at no point do we ever think like Malcolm McDowell's like lying about him needing to do these things, because like that's not what this show. We're never gonna get to the end of this show and it's just actually was a character study about mental illness. We know it's gonna be about like he's got some crazy power. So I don't know. It was fine, but we get into these flashbacks. He talks about how when he was a kid, one time he stepped on a crack in the sidewalk and killed his bully by getting him hit by a car.
Which can I mention that the car that hit the bully was driving at maybe, I don't know, 2 kilometers an hour.
Hey.
I was like, I think he's fine.
Nah, not if that wheel goes on that little kid's head. It's not going to do okay.
Yeah, it popped like a grape,
that's
Jordan.
True.
It popped like a grape.
It popped like a grape. I did like the filmmaking here, where with these flashbacks, it changes aspect ratios. They're going for like that grainy, film style where you could almost like hear the clicking of the camera of it recording. Like I appreciate the stylistic efforts for the flashbacks.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the director was trying to like make something of it to have, because he has a lot of flashbacks to work with. Like at the next one, they tow him at his job as an architect, and because he didn't finish dropping his pen 8 times, his boss falls down an elevator shaft.
It had to be 10 times. He only dropped it 8 times, and then his boss is like,
my mistake.
And he's trying to like come up with excuses to, your mistake cost that boss his life, so you should be.
You know what? I loved watching that boss fall down the elevator shaft, so it was worth it.
It was great. I love that boss's performance. He just seems so like over it. He's just like, no, leave the credit card. I'm paying for lunch, and then just dies.
And then he talks about the one time that he stopped doing all his rituals for a month and everything was fine, except when he turned on the news, there was violent crime on the news. I was just like, I don't know if we can equate these two.
But again, that adds to, is he crazy or not? Like, he sees the world falling apart and is like, see, it's because I'm not fixing it.
Well, what's odd is he started this off being like, doctor, if I can convince you of my story, will you let me go? So he tells all these flashbacks, and they're completely unconvincing. I was just like, I don't, like, I assumed when you started this conversation you had like a real like silver bullet. It's like, because the doctor's just like, yeah, no, man, you're crazy. We're sedating you and putting you in a padded room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Luke, would you have started with the tie? You'd be like, look, I could change the color of your tie by not tapping.
Absolutely. That would have been the easiest way. Watch, I'm just going to stop tapping and your tie's white now. Anyway, they lock him up and toss him in a room. And because we know this is Night Visions, we know it's the wrong move. Because when the doctor decides to leave to pick up his wife and kid from the airport, he encounters all kinds of unusual things because Malcolm McDowell stopped doing his tics. I'm going to list off some of them here. Oh, Jordan, you want to go first?
I just want to say, just before you list them up, this is the part that I just didn't quite get or understand, because Luke, you'll list the things, and I understand if it was like they said earlier, like, I'm doing this, it keeps birds in the air, and this keeps fish in the water, or this keeps whatever happening. But then when the things we start seeing are really peculiar things or peculiar actions that I don't. It's not like Jordan, like chaos is suddenly happening.
Yeah, if he doesn't do his tics, a filing cabinet will be in a weird spot. A security guard will be nude.
I like the filing cabinet because it kind of goes to that OCD nature of like, it's not in the right place, you have to put it back. That makes sense. Some of the others, I agree, are just, it's spooky.
Nude security guard. His car is now upside down. There is a horse walking around. People are executing each other in the street and enjoying it. Mm-hmm. Firemen now start fires. Of course, his tie is no longer blue anymore. And finally, fish sporadically fall from the sky. There's more stuff that happens, but like we get like a 5-minute walk through. We're just like, it's wacky world.
Nurse hangs herself. A person is like hitting herself in the face with a heel. Like, yeah, there's a whole bunch of like, it's crazy.
But that's a good point, Luke, because he doesn't say at any point, he's like, hey, I need you to do all these rituals, as they say, because if I don't, everything gets wacky. He's like the world will sort of end. So you have this idea that there's these monumental things that would happen, and there's a little bit of it, this sort of chaos of anarchy. But when we see stuff like, hey, there's a person in the background and they're wearing a scuba outfit, I'm like, who cares? Like, let that one go. Like, let that scuba person walk down the street. That's fine. Like, it's just because they were like, we want to show visually how many things he's being controlling. I get that, but instead of doing it things that are grounded in some sort of reality, they just like, what if it was weird? What if it was this clown can't stop farting? You're like, but what does it have to do with anything?
it's my big complaint with it as well, where they set it up quite clearly as like his powers connect to big things that maintain our reality, but these are now becoming just like comic book bizarro changes that are like funny to do, but doesn't make any sense. Like, they obviously can't just have a plane crash on this hospital, but like at the same time, that would be the ending or something, you know, like you can't have it be this, but it's what he says he does. And like when he quit for a month, why didn't it cause even more chaos than him?
That's a great question, because he's only quit for 4 seconds at this point.
He's sedated, and it's just so strange. What I really liked beforehand is just their back and forth conversation, and just the doctor, Miguel Ferrer, trying to add rationality to it. He's being very blunt. He's being very honest. Like, he hasn't been convinced. There's no reason for him to be convinced either. Malcolm McDowell isn't shifting in his perspectives of things. He's not questioning if he's sane or not. But that's like a fun thing, that these are both people firm in their positions, trying to get the other to believe in them. And I thought the direction was great. There's this ticking clock throughout the entire episode, like in their conversation, you just keeps hearing it. And then when he visits Malcolm McDowell at the end, the ticking clock sound is in like warbled reverse. And it's just nice. Like, these are the filmmaking things that make a lot more sense and are consistent than, hey, wouldn't it be excellent if a guy was wearing, just his underwear in this scene, or if this and this and this, like,
yeah.
You know, the filing cabinet, that's a great one, where it's just like, it ties into the OCD thing. Like, it's out of place with the car being upside down, but then some of the rest of them are just, you know, you got to show mayhem somehow. How do you do that? I don't know, crazy.
Yeah, and I think you're right, though. The strong part of this segment is the two actors just in a room together. But it was like they didn't want to just go for that, where it's like you get to the end of the episode and you just hear something in the background. You're like, oh no, something is happening there, and you don't leave that room. That's maybe not cinematic enough. It's not exciting enough. But I feel like as soon as he leaves that office, the episode falls apart. Yeah. And it's like, it's just, and you're like, oh, I wish he had just stayed in there. It was more interesting to see them, they're sort of tete-a-tete, you know?
Well, and they have a brief moment where, because the idea that his wife and child are on a plane coming back, and that this keeps planes in the air, like, if there was just that little bit, like, his wife calls him from the plane and like something's gone wrong, and he's like he's just like, he's not sure whether this is because of Malcolm McDowell or not, but he can't take the risk. Like, you could have, I think, played that off pretty easily. But they definitely, I love the idea of calling it a comic book thing. You're right. I could see all of these panels in like a Bizarro Superman. Like, there's all panels in a Bizarro Superman.
Yeah, or like there's a comic book series, The Ice Cream Man, where similar type of thing. And yeah, very much so. And you know, just one other thing too to note is, you could have kept it like, nowadays in TV, I think you can get away much more so with this just being two people in a room, and the simplest thing is his tie changes color, and then that makes him realize, holy shit, Malcolm McDowell may be real. Absolutely. And he has to phone up his wife, but maybe it's too late, or maybe he can't, or maybe he has to inherit this burden from Malcolm McDowell to save his wife and kid.
You know what I like is that both of you have given good examples of how this episode could have been better, and I feel like we took more time than the people in the writers' room to hash this episode out. They're like, what if a guy's kind of holding the world together with these ticks, and like, cool. So what should happen? Like, whatever, we'll film tomorrow.
I'll push back. I think they did put a lot of effort in, but I think one of the biggest problems that you get with any of these type of horror shorts is, and I mean, heck, Stephen King is a big example of this, endings. Endings can be the killer of it all. I actually think that the majority of it isn't just like the world stuff, but I like the whole conversations about faith and religion and mental illness and these rituals and ticks, and just like all of these things are really great, but they just don't know how to end it. And that is so frequently the case with these, whether you go back to Twilight Zone and it would be like, and the thing is, they were just toys in a bucket. Pretty weird, right? That happens so much, and Night Visions is no different. This is no different than that. But I actually think in terms of the writing, they did put a lot of effort into like the themes and characterization, but then it just has a wet fart of an ending.
Well, just to wrap it up, that's how it does end. Miguel Ferrer races back to Malcolm McDowell, begs him to start doing the rituals again to keep planes in the air. But the doctor is informed that, oops, now you have the contract with God. It's your turn to start doing rituals all the time. Which, again, is kind of an interesting idea, but like, it's sort of thrown in at the last second. I'm like, well, why don't we start seeing like what that looks like?
Yeah, or build up to it a bit more. I even like the choice of behind Malcolm McDowell, there's this tiny little window in his cell, and the white light just emanates through as he's saying this very scary thing, and Malcolm McDowell's giving a evil face, but he's lit with this angelic, godlike lighting. Like, that's great, but yeah, maybe just a bit more of that kind of discussion of like the contract, because yeah, when you get to the end and he says, oh yeah, now you have the contract, it doesn't really mean too much.
Don't worry though, because Henry Rollins is there to explain it all to us, because he steps out at the end and says, maybe it takes a madman to know the mind of God. And I was sort of like, is that what that was about, Henry?
Do you like these type of shows in general, both of you? Do you like, your Twilight Zone, your horror, like short anthology things? Like, do you like these?
I'm kind of mid on them. When I was a kid, I used to watch a lot of Outer Limits, and I'd watch a Twilight Zone if it happened to come on. In my adulthood, though, I don't seek out an anthology series too frequently.
I found I've liked them. I think it's the same way. I don't really seek them out, but usually I've seen ones I've enjoyed. I don't think this is the best example of it. I think we've talked about it a little bit over the episodes. I think there's a lot of really interesting concepts in this show. I think the execution, at least for me, has been lacking more than sort of home runs, But I think in general, I like the idea of it. And we've said before, and I feel like this episode too, it's almost like I wish they had done one in an episode as opposed to two.
Yeah.
Because it feels like they're really at the same time stretching these ideas and also don't have enough time to flesh them out properly.
It's a product of its time. These shows have changed. Like the two stories in one aren't always the case. Like Black Mirror episodes will just be one story.
Right.
Or Inside Number 9 will just be one story. And also, not every single one of these shows nowadays have to be strictly just a horror story as well. Like sometimes you can expand them out to be like, here's a cool little sci-fi story that gets into things, or what's the ongoing themes of a overriding anthology show. But also just mentioning Henry Rollins, I think also we've gone beyond just having the host. I mean, they still pop up from time to time, but like just having like this host that comes in to tell you the message at the end. Like we have, with these type of shows, evolved beyond the Crypt Keeper or the Rod Serling type. But I don't know, I find a quaint charm in them as well. Like I find a quaint charm in seeing Henry Rollins lecture me with anger in his voice.
Oh, don't get me wrong. Best part of the show is when Henry Rollins steps out. It is just like, it's we've talked about this, but it's just it's a product of the creation of the show where there was never supposed to be a host, and a host was forced on the show. But you can also see that they're just like, now they're having to write a moral that was never intended to be at the end of it. So someone's just like slapping them together. No shade to Henry. Like he's just being handed a script. Like, here's what this episode is about. He's like, all right.
He probably filmed it all like in an hour.
Definitely.
And other than like he's Henry Rollins, the host doesn't have a character themselves. Like when you go back to Twilight Zone, there is some character to him when he pops up and lectures you and tells you a thing. And he also feels otherworldly. While Henry Rollins, it's Henry Rollins. You can't help but be like, hey, he's got his tattoos out.
He works best when the moral of it is don't mess around with someone or they're going to hurt you. I'm like, is this really threatening? But when it's just like this one, it's just like, only a madman can know the mind of God. I'm like, all right, sure. Anyway, let's keep going. Here is story number 2 of episode 13, Voices. So it starts off, a deaf courtroom sketch artist has been getting experimental treatments to regain her hearing, but they've been failing. So she's a bit upset. She really wants to hear again. And then we see her going to work where she's sketching a murder trial of a gang member who is accused of killing another gang member. And she starts hearing someone's inner monologue while she's in the courtroom.
This was good. This was just a good episode.
I got a question. Was this actress actually hard of hearing?
Yeah.
Okay,
100%.
I was hoping. I thought so, and I was just like, I'm really hoping it's not someone pretending to do something.
No, she's a real person, hard of hearing. She's like head of like deaf actors guilds and things like that. I looked into her as well. I've seen her in a few things over the years, and she often plays like, hearing impaired people, but it adds an authenticity to this episode. And it's also it is just nice when you get to see, actors like this, because oftentimes, they would just cast someone else and they're just going to pretend to be deaf. But no, it was nice. And I actually I thought this episode was just really well done. There's little that I have terms and complain about. I like that they utilize in terms of the editing and the sound design. Like what I like with these two stories is they really played around with sound, with the ticking in the other one, and this one with the cutting out of audio and sound, like really getting you into her headspace and having the voice that she hears be just so in your ear. Like I just thought that this was a nice, simple story, and they just followed it to its natural conclusion, and it was just, it's just a nice way of executing this. I thought that they did follow through on the premise really well.
I mean, I will say I did like the fact that for the most part there's no audio. Like I did appreciate that it was mostly silent. That was one thing I did sort of catch on to. Anyway, she starts hearing this inner monologue while she's in the courtroom, and it's very quickly revealed it's the detective who worked the case. He's in the courtroom. He's there to testify, and he's just giving his inner monologue. It's a really bizarre inner monologue. But he's like basically explains like I killed the man, and not only did I kill him, I also stole the money and I pinned it on the accused, and like I also he keeps saying the term sticky blood over and over again.
I always think this is funny though when you see things and people are their innermost thoughts are heard. Wouldn't it really just be stuff that's like, my underwear's a little bit itchy right now? It should have been stuff like that, right?
It's an interesting inner monologue because it's more of like it's hard. Yeah, I mean they're presenting as inner monologue, but I think it is like it's such a guilt-ridden version. I'm not quite sure how it fits.
Well, they do surround this nicely. One, I actually liked the choice of. It's not a pure inner monologue. It is pure id-based stuff. Like, he just speaks in broken phrases at times, or just, like, one-word things. It's not just him just monologuing, just being like, I sure did kill that. Like, sometimes it's just, like, abrupt, violent terms. And she does say later on, like, it's not just telepathy. It's not just I'm reading his mind. I'm reading his heart. So it's like it's adding that type of logic to it. So when in retrospect you look back on like how this character has been his voice in her head, it adds some different layer than just she's telepathic now, because she can only hear him as well. She doesn't hear other people. It's only this one person.
Right.
Yeah. It's only one person. In fact, she starts hearing it. She's surprised. She starts writing down what the inner monologue is saying. As she's sketching the cop on the stand, she's writing down his inner monologue on the paper. And when she leaves the courtroom, she gets a little clumsy. She spills all her sketches everywhere, including the one of the detective. And who should happen to stop by to help pick up the drawings? Why, it's the bad detective. And he's picked up his own drawing with his own inner monologue on it. So now his inner monologue is telling her she's got to die.
Yeah.
It was also awkward because there was also one where she drew him where she thought he looked like naked. He's like, come on now.
What I liked here is the deaf woman goes onto a very late 90s chat room she has it is just with her doctor to be like, I'm hearing a voice, but it's the only one. And the doctor's kind of like, I don't think so. I think you might be going crazy. Bad doctor.
I love that too. It's just such a funny bit.
Old computers are great, though, because they struggled for so long through most of the 90s with how do you make people typing on a computer evocative in any way. It was the old, Scully. She's just reading it out. She's reading everything she's doing because we have to have something to watch.
That or spin the camera as they're hitting keyboard. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Then she goes to talk to the public defender who's in the murder trial trying to defend the accused. He won't believe her either, but he will give her his entire case file on the murder case.
Photos.
Outside the courtroom.
Give the photos, yeah. He felt like a Better Call Saul character. I like he's eating a sandwich, a disgusting sandwich. He's here for a paycheck. Like, he doesn't really care about this case. Like, even earlier when his defendant is, like, yelling in court, like, he barely stops this kid because he's just a public defender. He doesn't give a shit.
I know. I did like, he's just like, I don't know, you solve the case then. Here you go. And, of course, she starts to review the case files in the courtroom while she's supposed to be sketching, which I thought was very funny. I'm like, shouldn't you be working? Doesn't matter. What she finds in the case files is an abandoned bus that reminds her that the killer cop's monologue mentioned hiding the money he stole in a bus. So, as you would do, she decides to go check it out in the middle of the night.
Yeah, why did she do that? Why didn't she just sort of like, if it was me, I just minded my own business.
I was interested too because she's like, I'm going to go see if the money's in the bus. And like, I don't know, man. My initial thought was, for a murder trial to go to trial, months must have passed, which would mean that the cop has just left the money he stole on that bus for the longest period of time. I was like, dude, he would have gone and got it by now, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that is one of the big issues of it as well. That when he is on the bus, he's like, oh, maybe I should take the money now. Now?
I know. It's very funny. Because she goes to the bus, she finds the money. It is literally just a giant sack of money. It might as well have a dollar sign on the sack. The cop has also chosen at this moment to go get the money. So she hides in the back of the bus while he goes, looks around. He's like, oh, the money's gone. And, she can hear his inner monologue. I was also just like, I know this episode has to end, so they're just like forcing it forward. But she's hidden in the back of the bus. He doesn't know she's there. And she just stands up while he's on the bus and kind of like walks past him and gets off the bus. I'm like, just remain hiding. We don't need this. But it's just to lead to a chase sequence through one of your very classic ill-defined factory sets where there's just equipment and stuff and it's dark. Yeah. We can't have enough of these. You got to have a factory set.
Yeah, you got to have a factory set. I'm sure like David Duchovny and Gillian Anderson were like further down in the warehouse they're in. Yeah.
I would love to know how many movies or TV shows have walked through that set. It's got to be hundreds.
Well, it's got to rival that one quarry in Canada that they use in every show since like 2000s. Like if you ever watch any science fiction show or just any show, it's like there's a quarry. There's always just like one Canadian quarry that they all use. It's like it's going to rival that now, the warehouse and the quarries in a war.
No, for sure. There's like one guy who at some point very early in the night was like, I'll rent my quarry to various film and movie shoots. He's made a ton of money since then. He's retired on that quarry. Anyway, the cop finds her in the warehouse, grabs her. And as he grabs her, I guess I'm not clear if she's able to see his flashback or if she's just able to hear the monologue describing this flashback. But what we get to see is a flashback to the 1950s. The cop is a child now. He's got a little brother. His little brother's being annoying, so he smacks the back of his brother's head. Just at the same time that 1950s greasers get into a gang war, and his brother gets caught in the crossfire of these. It looks like the movie Grease, but for some reason they have guns.
Yeah. Well, you should, in all fairness, Grease, they should have had guns.
I guess that's
Kanicki's packing. Are you kidding me?
So his little brother, because he smacked his brother in the head, causing his brother to run into the road, he blames himself for his brother's death in this crossfire of a gang battle. And so as the cop is choking her, she tells him that she can hear his heart, and that he shouldn't blame himself for his brother's death, which I guess hardened him against gangsters.
Yeah.
So that's why he's been pinning things on them and stealing their money.
And became a cop in the first place. Yeah.
And made him a cop in the first place. And hearing this, the cop now feels bad for everything he's done across the course of his entire life. And she tells him, maybe because I wanted to hear a voice so bad, and because you needed someone to hear your voice, that's why this all happened. That's the moral of the story. Is she wanted to hear a voice, and he needed to be heard, and that explains why this episode took place.
I appreciate that. I actually really like this. One of the things about Night Visions as a series overall, I think, was they were strongest at making their show, like their stories and episodes, more like modern fables or parables, rather than just another Twilight Zone affair. Some of these stories did lean into that, and I think that's what they're going for here, where like we can talk about like logistically speaking, like you can't just turn a person's morality like that, but in terms of like these kind of parable like stories, I think it is effectively done. I like that his brother's name is like a recurring thing throughout the episode, and the sticky blood and all of that is something that's eating away at him. I also thought that she was fairly clever when she was trying to escape in the warehouse. Like, she could hear is like how he's tracking her down, so then she uses loud noises to deafen him because it won't affect her, which tied into the very beginning of the episode where they're testing her hearing with these high-pitched noises. So she utilizes that at the end of the episode. So I can see why this can be a little bit eye-rolling, but I think for what it is going for, it is just a through line that's honest.
Ryan, you're a very generous man, and I appreciate that about you. I'm glad we have you on for this, but I will say I rolled my eyes so far back into my...
I liked it. I didn't care for Henry Rollins telling me the direct message at the end.
Oh, it's so crazy. I just quoted what she says to explain why this has happened to you. Then Henry Rollins pops up at the end and says, this is the exact quote. We just heard her saying, I wanted to hear someone so badly and you needed to be heard so badly. That's like literal dialogue in the episode. Then Henry Rollins pops up at the end and says, hey, quote, a woman who needed to hear a voice, a man who needed to be heard. Be careful what you wish for. It's like, what? Henry, A, that's the literal dialogue from the episode, and then B, be careful what you wish. Like, it all worked out. I don't think it's be careful what you wish for scenario.
No. If anything, it benefited her.
It's like, it all worked out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. That one was especially, I was like, this is a particularly egregious case of this tacked on ending for poor Henry, where it's just like, oh man, you guys did not try to come up with a moral for this one. All right. That's the two stories from the final episode. Do you guys have any sort of final notes you want to get into before we get to ratings? Any sort of final thoughts?
I'm curious to know from Jordan at least a bit more about this last one, but also like obviously I want to know which one out of the two stories did you both prefer?
I actually preferred patterns better than I liked voices. Luke?
Oh yeah, I'm a patterns guy. I think we're in agreement on
patterns guy.
I think those two actors in that sort of like two-hander in that room, they can deliver. They're doing a great job delivering. It gets silly at that like midpoint where we see what happens when he stops. But I think that like two-hander's working well. I don't know. I think I've seen the story of like you can hear the killer enough times, and like I don't think it's a good story to begin with as a concept. But this is certainly not the best version I've seen of it. I do agree with you. I think they like. They're you know, the sounds and her using that her the ability to turn on those loud sounds to escape him in the warehouse are interesting points, but they're just time killers because like she goes in the warehouse, turns on a loud noise, but she's sort of caught like 30 seconds later. It's not actually and we've talked about this endlessly, but it is just a result of like these being two short stories. Like there's no time. There's no time for suspense, really. They just have to like power through these stories as quickly as they can because you have to do them in 20 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, the idea of like a horror story with the deaf protagonist is literally a film called Hush. Like that's a film-worthy idea that you can expand out to be much longer and much more tantalizing. It's always going to be the problem with these is like you're getting a tantalizing idea. Like that first story, Patterns, great concept, but for me, why I liked it less is it didn't remain honest to its premise and it kind of fell apart. Even though I like the premise and I like the two actors, while Voices, I like a bit more because it did promise a thing and it delivered on that thing and it remained pretty consistent.
Well, I think that's it's an interesting point because, you know, we've watched several of these now. And I think Luke and I have been pretty harsh in our reviews. My personal feelings, I know Luke dislikes this show more than I do. I think I really enjoy the show. I think it's kind of silly and doesn't take itself too seriously. However, I'd be giving it low ratings because I also think, to your point, Ryan, I think a lot of times they don't execute the idea they're going for. And that's sort of, I'm just like, in terms of just watching something, I'm like, well, that's just bad. This is a bad rating. But I would watch this show week after week after week because I love how silly and sometimes how bad it is. I just, as an overall show, I'm like, I don't think it's very good. I don't think execution is very good from some of the reasons we're saying. Maybe two ideas in an episode's not good, or the structure of the episode, or whatever it may be. But even when I give it low ratings, which I will be giving low ratings again on this one, I quite enjoy it, and I still want to watch it every week. And I have mentioned this to Jamie this week. I was like, oh, I'm really sad we're ending with Night Visions because I it's like I really like hating on it. You know, I really enjoy it every week.
I love Ryan shaking.
Yeah, I'm shaking my head.
He's like, no.
In all seriousness,
we disagree.
Though,
that's all right.
What does make these type of shows good? Like, what does these horror short anthology things where they have the two stories and the host, like, what makes like something like Twilight Zone better than this per se, other than like, well, it helped start a lot of this and it has the prestige, obviously. Like, I'm always curious of like, I didn't grow up with some of these shows either, and I'm now consuming some today where like it's much more about the long form things, like The Terror, for instance. That's a horror anthology show where each season is a story and then the next one's a different story, or like American Horror Story is obviously a big one of that too. The tides have changed, but I still look back at stuff like Night Visions and I say like, okay, but why is this considered bad when some of its contemporaries that are similar are considered good per se, yet they all contain the same structural problems and even plot problems too.
I think, in my opinion, doing them in that short 20-minute format makes you condense the idea down to its smallest but like least meaningful version. I think we've said this for most of these episodes, is there's a really interesting core idea at the kind of like kickoff of this, but they have no time to explore it. They have no time to like build suspense. They have no time to really like live in that world they're creating. And they have to get to the twist ending as like quickly as possible. I think it's punishing these episodes. Even if the episode wouldn't be good longer, at least if it were longer, you'd have time to like play with it or like have characters develop in it. But this way, there's just no time. Like, people are rarely more than the characters they need to be to like get to the twist.
And that's it too. It's always about a twist. We always can pick on the tropes and cliches and hallmarks of genres, but when you not only have it in such a condensed fashion, but also like, there's got to be a twist. That's also something that's been the bugbear of something like Black Mirror. Black Mirror has lost its edge and prestige for a lot of people because we are so accustomed to waiting for what's the thing, what's the twist, rather than say, how are the messages or the characters and stuff. So even in these bigger form shows now, we are seeing like some of just the staples of it are starting to wear thin on people nowadays too. So it's like, a Black Mirror episode can be 90 minutes long now, but we can also point at how some of its issues are the same as a Night Visions episode because it's just inherent to the storytelling.
I think it comes down to, though, that you're right. It's we're waiting for a twist. I think the twist has to be something that the viewer doesn't expect or can't. But it also can't be something that we don't expect because they haven't left breadcrumbs along the way. Because that's what we've had on this show, where it's like, here's an ending you didn't see. You're like, oh, it was an alien the whole time. You're like, oh, did you give any indication it was an alien? They're like, nope. Like, well, then that's a false ending, right? It's like, it has to be something that works within the episode. So if you rewatched it, you go, oh, geez, of course it's that. I just didn't even see it because it was such an interesting turn in the world we've built. But then to Luke's point, I think, to be fair to the show, they don't have time for that. Like you were saying, Black Mirror might have 90 minutes or another anthology show, you're right, might do several episodes over something. They just don't have the time, and it's handcuffing them in a way that makes some of these episodes seem even slighter than they are, because they're just like, well, you can't have a nuanced idea. You have to hit the viewer with something because we're got to get out in here in 2 minutes, and Henry Rollins going to come in with his tight t-shirt.
That's why I like the Voices episode. There is no like stinger twist to it. It just says, here is this concept, and let's see how this person handles said concept. It isn't like, and at the twist, there's no big like dramatic sting at the end that's like, oh my god, you didn't see that coming, in comparison to Patents, where it's like,
that's true.
And I like that. I like when these type of shows are willing to have those refreshing things as well. Also, just like, I always have a problem with these shows sometimes, or just horror stories, when like a relatively innocent person or like normal person is punished anyway. Like, what's the lesson here? Like, Miguel Ferrer's character wasn't like an asshole. He was just a rational human being. And then it's like, well, sorry, you should assume that when a crazy person tells you they're not crazy, that they're not crazy. It's like, okay, and now you have the power. It's like, it doesn't have that factor.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is just, I think, our problem with Night Visions is there's something about the shortness of having two stories and having to cram in the concept. It just kind of doesn't click into place. Either the twist has to be telegraphed so far in advance that you're just waiting for it to happen, or the twist is unseeable coming forward, or the story like would only work if you have time to like at least build out the suspense. To like build out this woman who's deaf being chased by a killer she can't see, she can only hear. Like, if you have time, you can build some suspenseful set pieces. There's no time though. We just gotta plow through. I think that's it. Let's get to ratings. I think we've gotten to like kind of what we're feeling, but I'm curious to hear what everyone's ratings are. Obviously, this is a one episode with two stories, but we're gonna treat it as one episode. So out of a 10 rating, Ryan, how are you feeling?
6.
6.
Yeah, 6.
Very.
You're so nice. You're such a nice person.
Because I liked one more than the other. Like, it's as simple as that.
Fair.
And it's not even, again, I actually really like Patterns, but it also just has such glaring issues to me. While, like I said, I think Voices is a short, simple idea that they just executed in the format as efficiently and in a captivating enough way as possible. So yeah, like a 6 for me. There are other episodes of the show I enjoy more. Like there's I enjoy the show a lot more than both of you, obviously, as well. But yeah, there's other episodes that I enjoy that are much more fables or parables and very much leaning in on atmosphere rather than like direct narrative storytelling. So I like the show overall, but this episode is, it's fine. It's fine.
All right, Jordan, what do you think?
There's a lot of convincing arguments coming.
Ryan's coming hot. He's got good arguments.
I know.
Lie.
And it's making me want to give higher ratings but I also just like, ugh. It's so funny that you like Voices because I really, really didn't like Voices, and I thought it was the weaker of the two. And it's like obviously different people, different strokes, but like I remember watching it and I was just like, woof, this episode is so bad. And then you're talking about it and it's like, hey, maybe I missed something. Maybe it's a little better than I thought, and maybe it's also living in this world that Luke and I are in, where we watched so many episodes of it. But I do think I gotta go stick with my guns on this, and I'm gonna go real low. So I'm sorry, I'm giving this one a 3 out of 10.
3 out of 10. Interesting.
I love the head shake.
I am probably obviously going to lean closer to Jordan. And I do prefer Patterns over Voices. I think you make some compelling arguments. I think you've spotted some of the nuance where the directors have come in and tried to add some pieces to it. And we've seen in other episodes where the directors have come in and tried to make it more meaningful than maybe they had on the page, or the actors are bringing a little more to it. I think we're definitely seeing that here as well. But again, I'm going to lean to, unfortunately, I feel like the powerhouse acting in the first one is what I'm drawn to more than the second one. I'm also going to go a 3.
Look, it's not a shock because when you started this show up, I messaged you being like, "Oh, great! I love this," and you immediately told me, "Well, we already dropped it, so soz about that." and then I was like, "Look, I'm not saying that you need to pick it back up so I can defend it, but like that's what I want, and here we are." I don't know how often that happens on this podcast, honestly, that you get where it's like, "Hey, how dare you? How dare you not give this show a fair shake?" Because you watch a lot of
not often
dubious shows,
but it does happen. I do believe I got a comment the other day on an episode we did have another show where someone was just like, "This is a completely they were so mad. They were very unhappy with our view of the show." Hey, listen, Jordan and I are very dumb, so don't like. I don't think anyone should take our word as like. I think if you like a thing, there's a good chance that Jordan and I just didn't understand.
I think it's a delicate road to walk with this podcast of yours, because I love this podcast. I love this podcast, hence I'm here and hence I listen to it, because you do comment upon and you do discuss shows that just won't get reviews or won't get podcasts or won't get in-depth discussions about them. And even if you have differing opinions to my own, I appreciate that there is a dialogue and discussion. It's not like my enjoyment from your podcast is actually the ones where you like a show more than when you tear them apart, which is always fascinating as well. So like I enjoy Night Visions. I do. I enjoy Henry Rollins giving a stiff delivery. I like the late 90s, early 2000s aesthetic of it all. I like that you can tell like this is aping off of X-Files and things like that. Like they're really trying to go in for all of that, and they just don't fully get there. And it's just a fun time. Like it's not a show that I'm always watching, and I'm like, how could you not love this show? But it is one where I do think it's an interesting oddity. Like this exists. Isn't that just an interesting thing? Like all these actors, all these directors, all these writers, all of these people are of note. Like these aren't just like schmucks. Like the producer is Naren Shankar, who was like one of the big Star Trek people, and like he would go on to do like we did The Expanse on our podcast, and he was one of the main producers and writers of The Expanse. And so when I booted this episode up, I'm like, hey, it's a name I can trust. And although you may not agree, I do feel like the quality of the people involved did shine through, even in a Shaggy Dog-like production like this.
Well, I don't know if I entirely agree, but I do agree that, like, Naren, he's the one who came out on top. For sure, he came out to, like, a real good work afterwards.
You just need to listen to the episodes of The City and the City. Luke and I really like that show.
Oh, good.
It happens from time to time.
Yeah.
All right, you guys. Do you want to hear the final score for Night Visions? What's this called? Night Visions.
Night Visions.
So our overall final score after punching into the computer is it's going to be a 3.36.
Ooh, that's really low.
What's your highest show? Do you know?
It's not very high.
No, what is your highest show in your podcast? Do you know?
I have to go back and look. We did this at some point during one of our hiatus episodes. I went back and like broke out all the scores, but it was a couple of years ago now, so there may have been some changes. I would have to assume City in the City must have climbed up there a bit.
Space would be high up because you guys gave some of those episodes like a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, that one had some higher ones. Mm-hmm. I mean, we're grouchy little babies, so a lot of these shows we punish them heartily for our own. We punish them for us making ourselves watch it, so we punish the episodes back, even though it's our own fault.
Yeah, the most punishing you give yourself, I think, is when you give yourselves comedy shows. It seems like those are punishments for yourselves. You're like, oh, we've done enough sci-fi, now let's do a comedy sci-fi. Yeah.
It is. They are always the roughest versions of science fiction for some reason. Oh, dear. Well, Ryan, why don't they tell listeners where they can find you? Tell us about Yum Yum.
So I host a podcast called Yum Yum Podcast with my wife, Rachel, and we talk about episodes of science fiction television one at a time. Some are revisits, some are first-time watches, new shows, old shows. We've done Star Trek Discovery. We've also done Space Above and Beyond, which is how I stumbled across this podcast here because I wanted to see if there was any others out there. We finished doing The Expanse. We've also been reading the books of The Expanse, and discussing them. We're near the end of that journey too. But right now we are doing a Canadian science fiction show called Killjoys, which is about about a bunch of ragtag bounty hunters. We're really enjoying the show. I've seen it before, but my wife Rachel has not. So it's been 10 years since Killjoys first came out, so we thought, hey, what perfect timing.
It's been 10 years?
10 years. And it was in this glut of like sci-fi, not just Sci-Fi Channel, but science fiction TV resurgence. Like, Star Trek was about to come back. We had The Expanse. We had Dark Matter. Like, there was a whole bunch of shows coming back after like a brief window of time where there wasn't much sci-fi TV of note out there. So, yeah, we're doing Killjoys. We're just finishing up the second season of that currently. So, yeah, we've got a whole bounty of goodies. Come over to Yum Yum Podcast. We're on all of the social medias, all of the podcasting sites. If people are fans of Continuum Drag, we've had both of you on at various points on our podcast to discuss. One of the last times was for the failed Babylon 5 TV movie pilot, Legend of the Rangers.
God, I think this episode is a perfect sampling for anyone who's interested in Yum Yum. Imagine a more positive version of our podcast.
You are very positive on Legend of the Rangers more than us. Because you've watched enough of these shows, you've watched enough of these failed pilot things that you're like, oh, this one's competent, so it's good.
That's true. You guys at least mixed in some really high quality good programs. Whereas I'm just like I'm digging through dirt for diamonds. So when I see something that's like midway good, I'm like, that was better than I thought.
And then I say to Luke, hey, I found a 1970s show where a guy gets electrocuted and has special powers. Do you want to watch this? And Luke's like, I can't watch another of those shows.
Oh, Lord. Well, Ryan, thank you so much for joining us today.
A pleasure, as always.
And listener, if you want to see some clips from the final Night Visions, you can find them on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and Blue Sky. Our handle there is @ContinuumDrag. You know what? The best part of this show is always, and I'm never missing one, I love posting Henry Rollins step out and tell you the moral of the story. I think that is my favorite thing.
Yeah, it's mine too. I lit up when I saw that on my feed. I was like, oh, great. This is going to be the next week or two. Yes.
I could completely just watch clips of Henry Rollins stepping out and explaining something to me. Like, it is my favorite part of. As soon as I get to the end, I'm like, here comes Henry. What's
he does like 3.5 hour spoken word sessions. You could just do it. You could just lock it, and he'll explain things to you.
The Henry Rollins Explains It All podcast. Let's get on it. But that wraps it up for the episode, listeners. So thank you for joining us. And Jordan, I'll see you in the next one.
I'll see you then.
Can't get enough Continuum Drag? Commission a bonus episode for charity.
Want us to watch an episode we missed after using the escape pod or during a best of run? No problem.
Is there an episode of a series we've never watched or a TV movie you want us to cover? You got it.
Wish we'd comment on your favorite movie, content, or other weird media? Sure, why not?
All you have to do is make a donation to one of the charities selected by past guests on our website.
We suggest a donation of $50 per television hour of content we're watching, but everyone's means are different, so give what you can.
Get all the details about bonus episodes for charity on our website, continuumdrag.podbean.com, or follow the links in our social media profiles.
Continuum Drag is recorded in Ontario, Canada, and Seoul, South Korea. Theme music by James Rick Seidler, produced by Jordan Dullock and Luke Black. Special thanks to Aaron Hughes.